Okay, the topic which we are going to cover today are, first of all, we'll be completing assertions in TestNG. So yesterday we saw one of the assertion, that is assert.assert equals. We'll also see today what all other assertions are there, and we'll try to apply them. Along with this assertions in TestNG, we'll also study one of the topic from Selenium, which is pending from long, that is validation and verification in Selenium. So I'll just search for it. Just give me a second. Yeah, so it is validation. Yeah, how to write effective validations in Selenium WebDriver. This is one topic which we'll be covering. We'll see. Okay, I have not shared my screen. Sorry. So can you see the screen now? Okay, so let me repeat. So I was saying the topic which we are going to cover today is, first of all, we'll start with assertions in TestNG. Okay, yesterday we saw one of the assertion, that is assert.assert equals. We'll see today what all other assertions are there. Okay, so this is one topic we are going to cover. Along with this topic, there is one more topic which complements this, and that is validations in Selenium WebDriver. That is also we are going to cover. So we'll see how we can do validations in Selenium, and we'll try to apply assertions using those on those validations and verifications. And also remaining topics of TestNG, like I'll discuss about the remaining annotations. So yesterday we saw 6 or 7 annotations, so today we'll see the remaining one, like left one are before group, after group, then before test, after test, before suit, after suit, and then there is one data provider. uh, that is what is left in annotations, and grouping of test cases in TestNG is left, so we'll see that as well. And then data providers in TestNG. So this data providers in TestNG is like data driven testing. So we will be using this data provider in our framework as well. And then last topic is parallel execution, that is executing test cases parallelly. So these are some of the topics, and I'll be able to complete them easily today. Let's see how it goes. So let's start with assertions. Okay. So what are assertions? Assertions are used to compare actual results with the expected results. We can use this feature to give a verdict whether a test case is pass or fail. So for example, after successful loading of a page, we want to compare the title of the page with the expected one. So here we saw yesterday that you can apply assert.assert equals, where uh, this is the actual and this is something which is expected. Okay, so this is what we discussed yesterday. Okay, so if I list down what all are the assert statements available in TestNG or in any testing framework, actually these assertions remain same for almost all the testing frameworks we have. Uh, they are, first one is assert.assert equals, where you are comparing actual and expected. These two values can be any data type. It can be two integers, it can be two strings, it can be two long values, it can be two objects, it can be two arrays, it can be two lists, anything. The only thing is they should be of same data type. Whatever data you're passing here, it should match, the data type should match with this, and then it do a comparison. If both are exactly equal, then it gives us a pass. If something is different or not matching or not equal, then it returns false. That means fail. Okay, so it's very simple. If whatever you're passing matches with this term, that means if actual and expected are equal, then it will pass your test case, else it will fail your test case. Okay, guys, just give me a second. Uh, Priyanka, you are asking, do we have a class today? You're already in class. Is it? I mean, just give me a second. I can see you. Oh, okay. I guess it was sent long back. Oh my. Okay. Okay. So the next one is just like this assert equals. There is something known as assert not equals. Okay, what does this means? It's exactly the opposite of assert equals. Assert equals says that when expected and actual are equal, then your test case is pass. Whereas when assert not equal says if whatever you're passing actual and expected, if both of them are not equal, then your test case will pass. Okay, so they have to be different for your test case to get pass. That's what this assert dot assert not equal means. Very simple. Both are equal and outside you are writing equal, then pass. Otherwise fail. Both not equal and outside you are writing not equal, then your test case is pass. Okay, so this is these are two examples. Then we have assert false, assert true. So it's like whatever condition you're passing, if it returns false, then your test case is passed according to the statement. Otherwise, test cases fail. And exact opposite of this is this assert true. So assert true, when you pass the condition, whatever condition you're passing, if that condition results true, then your test case is pass, else test cases fail. That's what this means. Okay. So coming below, what all other we have, then we have is assert not equals. So whatever object you're passing, whatever instance you're passing here, if that is not null, then your test case is pass. And similar to it, there is one more, that is assert dot assert null. And what does that mean? Assert dot assert null. If you're passing an object and that returns a null, then your test case is pass. Then we have assert same and assert equal. So this is quite different from the assert equals. People get confused here. What does this assert same means? Whatever arguments you're passing, if both points to a same class, or you can say both are instance of a same class, then they are same, then your test case is pass, else they are fail. If one is int and second one is long, then your test case will fail if you are using assert same. Whereas assert not same, if you're passing one as integer and second as long, then as they don't match, it will result in pass. So that's how you can apply assertions. So very simple, you can use assert equals when you have to compare two things. You can use assert true or false when you have a condition to test, and that condition is a Boolean condition. It either returns true or it returns false. Then you can use this when you are checking a null check, then assert null and assert not null are used. When you are verifying that two objects are of same type or not, are of instance of same class or not, then you can use assert same. So very rarely use the last two. Most frequently used one are these fours: assert equals, assert not equals, assert true, assert false. These are the four most frequently used one. Okay, and we'll also be achieving almost all our requirement through these. Many a times you might I'm sorry. So many a times you might require this assert null and assert not null, where you're just verifying whether the result is a null or not. Okay, which rarely happens in Selenium. So for us, the main four are above four assert statements. Remember them. If you have any questions, any queries, do let me know. I'll resolve. Any questions here? Okay, then let's start with next topic, that is validations. Okay, so yeah. So what are validations and verifications? Okay, validations in Selenium WebDriver. So the tutorial covered till now were focused mainly on how to automate different scenarios. In this tutorial, we will cover how to validate whether the results are as expected or not. Okay, so yesterday only we started with this assertion. Before that, I was just automating the scenarios, and nowhere I was saying that test cases pass or fail, or I was not checking any condition to verify that uh, let's say one example, after logging in, am I actually logged in or not? I was not verifying anywhere. So that's what we are going to do now. I'll give you certain examples what you can use for your validations, and same we are going to use in our frameworks. Okay, so uh, let's start with it. So validations mean checking whether the UI elements are rendered on the web page correctly or not. For example, checking whether the hidden elements are actually hidden or not. Checking whether the form input fields is editable or not. So these are few of the examples of doing validations. It's very important to put check and validations at each and every point possible to write good automation scripts. Every application in the test has lots of validation involved during testing process. Selenium provide various methods to verify UI elements. What are those? This is a long list which you can use to validate whether the scenario is correct or not. So let's start. The first one is page title validation. Okay, so to verify or to validate that the title of the page is correct or not. If I am on this page validation Selenium WebDriver, if you check the title of the page says validation Selenium WebDriver. Whereas when I'm here, it says Selenium tutorials a complete guide to master Selenium. So these are titles. These title changes according to the page. So how will you get to know whether you are at correct page or not? By title. So how will you get the title? There is a simple method called driver.getTitle. Okay, so I hope no questions in page title validation. Any questions, any queries? Okay, next is page URL validation. So this can be done in two ways. I mean, two different uh, validations can result in page URL validation. One of them is that let's say you navigated to a particular URL and now you want to know whether the URL is correct or not. Okay, so how you can do that? By simply getting the URL. So what is the method to get the current URL from the page? Method is dot get current URL. That's what we started, right? Now there is one more aspect of page URL validation, and that is verifying that the URL which is associated with the link is correct or not. Okay, so let's say for example I have a link on a page, any link, maybe I cannot see any link here. Yeah, here we have many links. So if I check its URL, I mean its HTML page, I'll see that it's a link with an anchor tag, and it has an attribute href which has a URL associated with it, right? So what does it means? Okay, it is I guess twice it is added. So what does this mean? This means that once I click on this parameterization in click, it will take me to a page. Okay, actually the URL is incorrect. I need to change it. Let me check something else. Okay, so here if you'll see, this is one link which has a URL, and the URL is equal to some page. So once I click on it, it opens up that page, right? So there can be a requirement where you will get the URL from here. After clicking on it, the new page which opens, you get the URL from here, and then you compare both of them. So to get URL from here, from URL bar, method is dot get current URL. Whereas to get the URL from to get the URL from a link, that is this anchor tag, uh, say data provider in TestNG. So what is the method? We have a method called dot get attribute, and in the attribute will pass href. Okay, so that's what we can do. Okay, so this is another way of validation. Any questions, queries here? Okay, so the next one is next validation we have is next validation we have is scroll down. Scroll down is not actually a validation, but it is a way to reach or check all the elements on the page. So for this, what you have to do is for the scroll down operation, we have two ways. One is JavaScript execution through JavaScript execution, and second by performing mouse operation. So you can use any one of the two to do the scroll down operation. Why we need scroll down? We discussed once we were learning about scroll down. Like if you open any website like Flipkart.com, so if you see here, once your page is loaded successfully, then also if you scroll down, some of the element appear late. Okay, so why they appear late? Because there is something there is something known as lazy loading. Lazy loading means loading the page once you scroll down there. Okay, why we need that? To improve the loading speed of the page, so that we don't have to load all these images at the time of at the time we navigate to flipkart.com. Rather, we open them once we reach there. Okay, so for these validations you need scroll down, and we have already covered scroll down with two different ways, so that's also something which is done. Next is verifying hidden element. That's what we'll see now. Then checkbox validation, radio button validations. So for all these, last one, to verify whether a dropdown allows multiple selection, this we have already seen. In a dropdown, if there is a method, I mean in a select class, there is a method called is multiple. So if that returns true, that means a dropdown allows multiple selection. If that does not return, I mean that returns false, that means that dropdown does not allow multiple selection. So that is also we have seen. Then check if an element exists, text box validations, enable disabled properties. So these remaining ones can be validated using three methods. I'll discuss about the last one later, but yeah, the remaining ones can be done or can be verified with three methods, and those three methods are these three. One is selected, second is multiple, and third one is displayed. Okay, so these are three methods which you can use to validate the remaining topics. Okay, so what does these three means? Let's see an example. Let's say I'm at mercurytravels.co.in. Okay, so here, if I'm, let's say, booking the flight, and if I select round trip, you can see that return date is visible on the screen. When I click on one way, this day of return goes. That becomes hidden. Okay, so to verify that once I click on one way and this goes hidden is something which I want to achieve. Okay, and how can you do that? For that, we have a method called isDisplayed. If isDisplayed method returns true, that means that element is visible. Say for example, if I'm at round trip and I call this method isDisplayed for this particular web element, it will return true. But if I select this one way, that element is hidden now, and if I call isDisplayed method now, it will not be displayed. It will be hidden. Okay, so that's what we want to achieve here. Any questions? Okay, so once I click on round trip, this will appear. Once I click on one way, this will go. So let's try this. Okay, so I'll change this package name to right click, refactor, rename. Here I'll say validations. Okay, so I'll create a class and let's say Mercury travel. Okay, so from yesterday's class, I'll just copy invoke browser method. Okay, so here we need to change the URL. Okay, so first of all, we have invoked the browser, did all the configurations, and then I'll remove this. Okay, we'll add after class. After class. Okay, my bad. You have to take one from org, TestNG. So I'll say public void close browser, and where we'll simply driver dot quit. Okay, and after this I'll say at test. Let's say I'm doing first test, and test is public void verify round trip return date is hidden for uh, one way one way trip. Okay, so look at the name of the method. The name of the method I'm writing, verify return date is hidden on one way trip. Just by reading the method name, I'll get to know what does this test case means. So do I need comments here? No. So that's one thing you also have to learn, that write your test cases, the method name of the test cases, such that just reading the method, I should get to know what we want to achieve here. Okay, so here I want to verify that the return date is hidden when I select one way trip. Okay, so let's write the scenario. So after navigating to the URL, we have to click on this flight button, right? So if I check HTML code, it's a link which has link text as flights as well as ID as flights. Okay, so let me see if ID is unique. How will you verify ID is unique or not? Go to firepath, /a, in the square bracket, I'll say at ID equal to, I'll pass this. Press enter, you will see only one matching node is coming, so I can use ID. Okay, why I'm not using link text here? Because you can see there's flights is here as well as here, and both are link. So you cannot use this. You cannot use link text. Whereas this ID is unique, so I can directly use by.id. So here I'll say driver dot find element by dot id, and the value of id is flights. And what you want to do with it, you want to click on it. Okay, then we will click on this one way button, one way radio button, right? So I'll pass this trip type. Here I'll say driver dot find element by dot id, and again the value is this. What you want to do, you have to click on it. So I'll say dot click. So I clicked on it. Next is, after clicking on this one way, let me go here. We'll select this section. So this selection again is a div which has an ID this. So this complete goes off once you click on that, right? So here what we can do is let's create one web element, and the name of the web element I'll put is, let's say, uh, um, just a second. Yeah, no need of creating a web element. I'll directly say driver dot find element by dot id, and the value is this, and here we will put is displayed. So I'm calling a method called is displayed, and that thing I'll take it in one boolean variable. Say let's say I call that as is return date visible. Okay, so what I'm doing is, this is my web element, and on this I'm calling this method called is displayed. This method returns a boolean value, so I'm receiving that value in a boolean variable. Now if that variable, if this web element will be visible on the screen, that will be assigned to this, and then uh, you can put an assertion now. So assertion will be assert dot assert assert true. Okay, and put the condition here. But what we want to achieve here, once I click on one way, once I click on one way trip, just a second, I am okay. So here I cannot use ID because I guess both of the radio buttons have same ID. Yeah, I cannot use ID. I need to change this to XPath with value R. So I'll say double slash input and at value equal to R for round, right? And for one way it is, for one way it is S. So I'll change this to S. Yeah. Okay. Still two checkbox are coming, whereas the other one. Okay, this is hidden. Okay. So let me see what I can add here. Search flights, then double slash input at value equal to R. Okay, now it's coming as one matching node, so I'll copy it, and I need to change it to S. Okay, still two matching nodes. Okay,
One
yeah,
thing, like, isn't it better if we select one way, then the date of return is not visible,
yeah, that's
is
what
not
I'm doing.
displayed?
That is what I'm doing.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so here I can pass ID. So I'll say and at ID equal to trip type. Now it is one matching node. So you can check in the fire path that whether you are getting one single matching node or not. Okay, so here I need to change it to XPath. Okay, once we click on this, then we get this as a dot. Now what is expected here? We are like, when we are clicking on one way trip, we are expecting it to be hidden. Hidden means it should return false. That means I should use here, instead of assert true, I should use here assert false. Then only I'll get a pass, right? So is it clear to all? What I'm doing is, After navigating to this page, I'm clicking on flights, then I'm selecting this one way, and then I'm verifying that this is not displayed. How? Clicked on flights, clicked on one way, and after that, that section, that web element, I'm calling a method called is displayed. This will return true if it will be visible. This will return false if it is not visible. So here the expectation is that it is not visible. So this will return a false. That means this value will have a false, and if I want to pass this test case based on this condition, I have to use assert false here. Clear? Any questions, anyone? Clear, Priyanka? I'm doing the same thing which you just mentioned. Okay, so let's quickly execute this test case. So I'll just right click, run as TestNG test. Okay, so here you can see that that particular test case is passed because the element was visible. Okay, and if I change it to true, if you change here the assert statement from assert false to assert true, and if I execute my code again, you will see that it will fail for this condition. Here you can see it has failed, and failed, if you click on it, here it's saying expected was true but found to be false. Clear? Any doubt here? Okay, so next we have is next like this we have couple of more methods like one is you need to verify whether uh, uh, you need to verify whether let's say a, a radio button is selected or not. Okay, so say for example when I okay, Nishta, you have a question, could not understand why it failed. Why it failed? Because I changed the condition here. Earlier I was putting the condition as see. Earlier the condition was assert fails because I was expecting failure. Now it is coming as false, but you are applying the condition that it should be true, but it will be false, right? Because that particular web element is not visible on the screen, so it will return you false. It returns you false. That means here you're getting a false, and true false means fail. Clear? Or any doubt? Okay. So next we have is as yeah. So let's say when I reload this page first time, let's say I open this page and I click on flight button, and after that I want to verify that by default radio trip is selected. How will you verify? You need to get the status of this radio button, or let's say here there is a checkbox. You need to get the status of that checkbox, whether it is selected or not, right? So we will write that as a test case, and here I'll add a test case. I'll say add test, and the test case will be public void. The name of the test case will be verify default selection, default selected trip is uh, one way, is round trip. Okay, so how will you verify here? Driver, these things again you'll do driver dot find element and this. Okay, so I'll copy them, put them here. Okay, this I don't need. So once I click on this flights, and then I'll get the status of round trip. So how can I get? Uh, Let me check its URL. I mean its HTML code. Okay, so it's an input type which has this attribute called value equal to r. So I can use that /input in the square bracket at value equal to r. Press enter. You can see that radio button is highlighted. So I'll copy it here. I'll say um, web element web element round trip radio button equal to driver dot find element by dot xpath, and the value of xpath is what I'll pass. And yeah, this is the web element, right? Where it is, I'm sorry. So here I'll put a semicolon. What is okay, my control button was selected. Okay, so I created this web element. Now I need to see whether it is selected or not. So I'll create one boolean variable. Let's say I'll call it boolean default selection flag, select flag. Okay, any name you can give. So here I'll say this is my web element dot is selected. So there is a method called is selected. This method will return true if a radio button is selected, or a checkbox is selected, or any value from a drop down is selected, or anything which is selected. So this will return a true, generally used with radio buttons and checkbox. So if they are selected, that means if they are checked, then this is selected method returns true, otherwise it returns a false. Okay, so here we are expecting it to be true. So here I'll put assert dot assert. So here my condition will be assert true, right? And that will be default select flag. This also I'll change back to false. Okay, and one more thing, this test case has to be executed before this. So I'll put priority here to, let's say, 0, and I'll add priority to the other one as 100. Okay, so first this test case will execute and then this. Let's execute. So here you can see it executed two test cases, both are passed. Why it got passed? Because the default selection was that radio button. Clear? Any questions here? Okay, so this was regarding is selected, and we are done with is displayed, and then there is one more, that is enabled. What does this enabled means? Sometime what happens is there are a few elements which are enabled or disabled. That means they are grayed out, or they are actually visible, actually available to be interacted. So if you have any web element which is grayed out, okay, and you want to see whether it is grayed out or not, then you can call this method called is enabled. Exactly same way, the way we applied this is displayed and is selected, same way you will apply that, and it will return true if your web element is enabled. If it is grayed out, then it will return a false. Okay, so based on your requirement, you can use assert equals or assert false, sorry, assert true and assert false for this. Okay, so we'll be taking this in our framework, so I'll not, I mean, you can try this yourself. Otherwise, in frameworks anyways, we'll see. Example is exactly same we saw for these two. Okay, so these are some of the validations which we can apply. There is one more in the list, and that is the last one, that is page content validations. So sometime what happens is there comes a requirement where you want to verify that a particular text box, sorry, a particular text is there on a page or not. Okay, say for example, you want to verify uh, some uh, some text is there or some paragraph is there on in the on the page or not. So for that, though it is not done, not a very good validation, but yeah, you may encounter a situation. So for that, how to get the complete content of the page. So for that, Selenium provides us one method called get page source. What does that do? It returns us the complete HTML page of whatever page is opened, and in that you can apply this method called dot contains, where you pass your string and it will validate whether that content is there or not. So that comes under page content validation. Okay, so that's all. Any questions now? Any doubt in any one of these validations? Okay, one is also left, that is read only property. So read only property is something which is available as an attribute. Okay, so there is what you can do is you can use dot get attribute. So if you recall, yesterday I was showing one example where read only equal to read only was there. Okay, so if that attribute is available, then you can simply use the method called get attribute, and you can pass the value as read only. If the value is coming as null, that means read only attribute is not there. That means that is not a read only, that is that particular web element is not read only. If it is not null, then you will get the value. Okay, I'll try to find an example. um, in demo guru 99, if I go, let me check if I found that. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let's call one of the existing code. So here I'll just execute this code so that I can get a customer ID. Okay, so I got a customer ID that is 54026. If I copy it and go to edit customer, if I submit it here, you will see that these first three properties are grayed out. They are not enabled. Okay, so if I check their page source, okay, you can inspect here. You can see it is using one disabled equal to on. So here you can apply is enabled. Okay, so they are using disabled enabled to do that. So if I just see here, if I change it to off, I'm not sure whether it will allow me to edit now or not. No. Okay, so yeah, so what I was saying was that you can use is enabled for this case. uh, Maybe, I mean, in some of the cases, instead of this disabled enabled, it will be read only. There will be an attribute called read only, and if you and the value of read only is equals to read only only. So either it will be there or not there. So if it is there, that means that property is read only. So you can use get attribute in that case. But if it is not there, that means you will get a null value. So based on that, you can apply the condition. So in future, if I'll find any of the that example, I'll show you. Okay, but I guess you got an idea how when it will be enabled and disabled. Okay. Okay, so that's all in validations. Now we will use all these validations, whatever we have learned, all these validations in our frameworks. We'll write whatever methods we'll write, whatever test cases we'll write. Every test case will uh, put um, every test case we will be uh, will be putting some of the verifications or validations, and one of the those validations can be from here. Okay, yeah, so that's all for validations. Now any questions, or if not, then we can go for a break and then we'll continue with other topics. Okay, so let's have a break for 7 minutes and then we'll come continue with other topics. Okay, so let's continue. Any questions before we continue? Okay, so let's see this data provider. This is one of the most important topic in TestNG and a must ask in all the interviews as well. So let's talk about this data providers. What is it and what we can achieve using it. Okay, so yesterday we saw this parameterization using testng.xml file in which we were passing values of parameters which you can use in your class file in any of the method. Okay, but when you're using this parameters attribute, you can pass only one attribute at a time. But what if you need to test it with multiple parameters? Okay, and even we can extend that to read from an Excel sheet as well, but reading from an Excel sheet will do in frameworks because we need to learn how to read from Excel also. So that's something which we are going to learn in framework, and we'll be writing one utility there where we'll be reading from Excel sheet and providing data through data providers. Currently I'll just show you directly in the Java class itself. What does this data providers mean? A data provider means that it's an annotation data provider, and why it is used when you need to pass multiple data to a method. Say for example, let me close all these. Say for example, yesterday we did this Guru 99 project, right? So in Guru 99 project, we wrote one method that is login. So I'll just copy that project again and we'll paste it here. In this Guru 99 project, we have this method called uh, login where we are passing two parameters, user and password. Okay, so and we were using these parameters. Now I'll just remove this and uh, I'll use data provider in this case. Okay, but before we directly jump on to Guru 99, let's learn it with a simple example and then we'll copy paste it for Selenium. So I'll create another class and I'll call it data provider example. Okay, and in this, let's say I have a test case, and what does this test do? Let's say it just prints whatever, print the arguments. Okay, let's say I have two arguments, one is string username and second is string password. These two arguments I have and I'm just printing them, nothing else I'm doing. Let's say username is username. Okay, and I'm also printing password. So let's say password is password. Okay, and after that I'm just printing a separator. Okay, so this is my test case using printing username, printing password, and there are two arguments. So I'll create something which can supply data to it. Okay, so for that what I'll do, I'll create one, I'll add one annotation and I'll call it data provider. I'll create one method public, and return type of this method I'm keeping as a string with a square bracket. Then I'm calling it get data. Okay, so I'm writing something which will return some data. Okay, so what does this means? This means it returns a string, a string array of two dimensions. Okay, it returns a string array of two dimensions. Why two dimensions? We'll see in some time. So let's say I'll create one and I'll call it data. equal to new string. Okay, just a second, what I'm doing wrong. Okay, okay. So here, let's say 4 rows and 3. Yeah. So I'm just creating a string array. Okay, two-dimensional array. Why two-dimensional? We'll know. Name of the array is data, and then new, and then we are giving the size. Now see why we use two-dimensional. It will always be two-dimensional, no matter what, how many data you're passing or how many variables you have. Okay, so here the first argument or the first index tells you how many number of arguments you're using. Say for example, here we have two arguments, username and password. So how many pair of username password you are passing? Four. Four means that I'll be sending four uh, username and password. And this second dimension what you pass is the number of arguments. Here the number of arguments is 2. So the second dimension will be how many number of arguments you have, username and password, and first will be how many such username and password you need. That means 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say 4 username password I need. So this will be 4, and as there are two variables, I'll keep this as 2. That's why it is a two-dimensional value. Clear? Any doubt in this? So it will always be a two-dimensional value. I'm passing string, I'm creating a string array, two-dimensional array. Name of the method is data, and size of this array is 4 by 2. That means I need 4 pair of username and password. Any questions here? Now I'll supply value to this data. So it will be data. As the array index always starts with 0, 0, so it will always be 0, 0. It will be, let's say, uh, Saurabh is the user, okay, and 0, 0, 0, and next will be 0, 1, and let's say pro at 1, 2, 3 is the password. Okay, so I'll just copy it. It will be 1, 0, 1, 1. So let's say Priyanka is the username, and this is the password. Okay, I'll copy it, paste it again. So it will be 2, 0, 2, 1, 3, 0, 3, 1. Here let's say Gaurav, Rohan, something, some name. Okay, so I added these four values, and at the last we'll simply say return data. So this is how our data provider is created. First of all, you need to uh, create a method, any name, whatever name you like. I just give get data because we are getting the data for it. Then the return type will be a two-dimensional array. Okay, so if both the variables are of string, then it will be string array. If both will be integer, then it will be an integer array. Now I have a small question for you. What if one is a string and second is an integer? What can you do here? Anyone?
Object, can we use object?
Who said this? Yeah, Susie. Yeah, perfect answer, Susie. So if both are of different type, maybe one is string and second is integer, then just change this string to object. Okay, and generally this is one of the important interrogation as well, that what should be the return type of your data provider. So they expect you to answer as object, because object is the class, is the top class which can store any type of data. Remember? So here we can return as, we can change the data type as object. Okay, and then here you need to tell from where you're getting data. So I'm getting data from data provider and equal to name of the method. So the name of the method is get data. That's all. Now when you execute this code, you will see that it will be executed with four uh, pairs of credentials. So here you can see this particular, and it will consider each parameter as one test case. So here you can see there are four test cases which are passed. So test methods are four: test one, and the name of the method is print the argument. Saurav pro at 1234, Priyanka at pre at 1234, then Gaurav PRQ at 1234, and Rohan. This. So this is how data provider provides the data. Any questions in this? Okay, so very simple. Uh, why two dimensional? Because first one will tell you how many pair, second will tell you a number of arguments. Uh, Keep it string if all your variables are of string type, all your arguments are of string type. Keep it integer if all the arguments are of type integer, and keep it object if you have a mix match. Rest everything will remain same. Here you need to put the data provider annotation, and the method where you want to use, just change it to data provider, and the method equal to name of the method. Okay, now there is an assignment for you. I want you to use this data provider to add it in Guru 99 and write all the scenarios. I mean, use this data provider with, let's say, two as correct credentials and two as incorrect credentials. So your test case should be capable enough to handle incorrect credentials as well. See what you can do in that case. See what happens when your test case fails. So you have to think now, everything I've provided till now. You need to think, if your test case is failing, what happens and what you'll do with it. Okay, so next week we'll discuss regarding that. Okay, so what is the assignment? Assignment is simple. Guru 99 login, uh, pass four pair of credentials. Two can be correct, two can be incorrect, or maybe one can be correct and three incorrect. You will pass these credentials through data provider, and you have to handle negative scenario as well. That is what happens when it fails. Okay, everything you know, you need to handle something known as alert handling. So yeah, see, I mean, we can discuss next week what you have done. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so this is regarding the data provider. Next we have is, uh, let me see what is left. Okay, one is grouping test cases in TestNG. So for that, I'll just copy test class 2 and put it here. And in this particular class, I have, let's say, three test cases. I'll copy these three and add three more. Let's say I'm calling this as test case 6. 7, 8. So I added 6 test cases in it. Now, let's say there are multiple classes like this which has 10 test cases and you want to execute only sanity scenarios out of those. So what you'll do, identify those test cases which you want to consider as sanity. Maybe let's say I want test case 3 and 2 as sanity. Okay, identify those test cases and add one group to them. So how you'll add, there is an attribute called groups, okay, equal to, in curly brace, give the value. Say for example, I want to give sanity. I'll just give sanity. Okay, copy it, assign it to the other one also. Okay, so out of those 6 test cases, I'm considering test case 2 and test case 3 as sanity. You can add multiple groups to it. Say for example, you want this to be as a part of sanity as well as smoke. Okay, so this test case is a smoke test case as well as a sanity test case. Now I'll come here. I'll add one in my TestNG test cases. Here I'll add one XML file. Let me copy any one of them. Sanity test cases. Okay, so I created one XML file with name sanity test cases. I'll open it. So I can say sanity test execution, and here I'll include one class, and name of the class will be day 17 test class 2. Okay, so this, if you do this, this adds this will execute all the test cases, but I want only sanity to be executed, right? So what you will do in this test, add, okay, yeah, add groups. In groups there is run, you need to add run, and then there is something known as include, and then there is something known as exclude. What does these mean? If in a group you want to execute all the sanity scenarios only, then you will use include, and if you want that only sanity should not execute, rest everything should execute, then you will use exclude. So as the name suggests, so here as I want only sanity scenarios to be executed, so I'll simply say sanity. When I'll execute this, you will see in that particular class only sanity scenarios are executing. So only 2 test cases will execute. It's failing. Let me see what happens. Cannot find. Okay, okay, the name of the package is different, so I need to change the name of the package. Okay, now when I'll execute it, right click, run as TestNG suite, you will see only 2 test cases are executed, that is test case 2, test case 3. And this scenario is not limited only to one class. You can add as many classes as you want. Let's say you have 3 classes. Out of those 3, you want all the sanities test cases to be executed from those 3 classes. Just add those 3 classes here and you're good to go. Clear? Any questions? Any queries? So this is known as grouping of test case. Frequently asked interview question, like in interviews, interview asks you questions like uh, interview will ask you questions like what if you want only sanity scenarios to be executed out of your those 1,000 test cases. So your answer should be, out of those 1,000 test cases, first we'll identify which all are sanity scenarios, and then we'll add a group called sanity to them, and that's what we need. clear? Any questions, any queries? Okay, so that's all. One more scenario is left. Let me quickly complete that also. And that is parallelly executing test cases. Just give me a second. Guys, I just need 5 minutes. Can we have a 5 minutes break? And after that, we'll complete this last scenario. Okay, so I'm just pausing for 5 minutes. We'll start again. Okay, so let's continue with the last topic, and the last topic is parallel execution. It also says multiple browsers, but as Mozilla is not working for us, and I'm not tested also from long, so maybe I'll check this multiple, I mean, the other browser part later on, but we can check the other section, that is parallel execution. So what does this parallel execution means? Parallel execution means that you are testing multiple scenarios parallelly. Okay, say for example, this Guru 99 project which I have. Okay, here uh, this username password, by keeping different username password, I'll test them parallelly. Okay, how will I do? Let's say, let me take this day 16 one. Okay, here we using parameters also, so I'll just copy this parameterization. Copy, where is copy? Yeah, okay, copy, and we'll paste here, and I'll say parallel test execution. Okay, now in parallel test execution, uh, I have a suit, and I told you yesterday that in a suit you can have multiple tests. So let's say this is my test 1, I'll add test 2, and I'll add test 3. Okay, so 3 tests I have added. First one is this, second one is this, and third one is this. Now you can change the manager ID here. First one, let's say, is 102442. Second, you can change to some other. Third, you can change to third. Okay, for now I'm just keeping them 3. I'll just show you that all 3 executes together. Now to execute all the 3 together, what you can do is, here you will add one parameter, that is parallel equal to tests. Okay, as we are running tests in parallel, so we'll keep this parallel equal to tests. What this will do, it will invoke 3 browser in one go. So I right click, run as TestNG suite. Okay, something failed. Let me see. Hmm, Parallel equal to tests work. Not sure. Click, run as. Okay, so the error was, it was not capital TEST, it should be small TEST, and here now it is saying that 3 tests cannot have same name. So here also you can see test class test execution. So I'll just change it to maybe Guru one test execution. Okay, I'll add here, I'll change to Guru 2 test case, and this will be Guru 3 test case. So now we have changed it to 3 different. Right click, run as TestNG. Yeah, so now you can see three browsers opened parallelly. All 3 got uh, here you can see 3 browsers are opened parallelly. All the 3 will execute the same code We'll close one by one, and you can see all the three were closed. And here you can see GRU3 test case, GRU2, GRU1, and it also showed for which all test cases it executed with which parameter. So this is how you can execute test cases in parallel using TestNG. Clear? Any questions? Any doubt? Okay, so that's makes the end of all the topics of TestNG. Any questions if you have, do let me know. And from next class onwards, we'll be starting frameworks. Just one more thing, if any of your friend wants to start only frameworks, I mean if they want to do advanced Selenium frameworks and the remaining topics, then please tell them they can join for 5,000 will be the fees for the remaining frameworks. I mean we have spent almost uh, 30 hours now, so remaining one will be for 5,000. So if anyone wants to join only framework, they can join from next class.